In the quiet folds of history, where ancient stones whisper and forgotten crafts beckon, a collection of enigmas stirs the imagination, each a fragment of a lost world. From intricate devices charting the stars to colossal statues marching across distant islands, these relics hold secrets of civilizations that shaped the past. Cities swallowed by jungles, scripts carved in silence, and stones defying time invite wonder, their truths hidden in shadows. Beneath deserts and seas, traces of vanished empires and strange symbols hint at knowledge beyond our grasp. As we embark on this journey through 20 mysteries, the unknown calls softly, urging us to listen. Join Undiscovered Enigmas on YouTube, where these tales unfold, and subscribe to explore the echoes of the past with us, one story at a time. Step into the twilight of history, where the world's oldest riddles await. The Antikythera mechanism, the ancient Greek mechanical computer. In the early 20th century, a remarkable discovery emerged from the depths of the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. Divers exploring a Roman-era shipwreck uncovered a collection of corroded bronze fragments, pieces of a device that would soon rewrite our understanding of ancient technology. This device, later named the Antikythera mechanism, is now recognized as the world's oldest known analog computer, a mechanical marvel created over 2 millennia ago. At first glance, the mechanism appeared to be nothing more than a cluster of worn gears and plates, encrusted with centuries of rust and marine deposits. However, as researchers carefully examined the fragments, they uncovered a complexity that far exceeded expectations. The device contained an intricate system of interlocking gears designed to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. It demonstrated an understanding of the cycles of the sun, moon, and even the irregularities of the lunar orbit. The question that haunted scholars for decades was how such an advanced mechanism could exist in an era so distant from the mechanical clocks and computers of the modern age. Crafted somewhere between 150 and 100 BC, this device reflected a level of scientific and engineering sophistication that seemed to contradict what was known about ancient Greek technology. Careful X-ray imaging and 3D reconstructions revealed the mechanism's purpose. It was essentially an astronomical calculator. It tracked the movements of the sun and moon through the zodiac, predicted lunar and solar eclipses, and even modeled the timing of the ancient Olympic Games. Its creators had compressed centuries of celestial knowledge into a single compact machine. The mechanism consisted of at least 30 gears, each cut with precision. These gears interacted to replicate the complex motions of celestial bodies. This was not a mere clock. It was a device that represented cycles spanning decades. The lunar cycle, the solar year, and the irregular path of the moon were all encoded within its cogs and wheels. The device's sophistication suggested a deep grasp of mathematics and astronomy that had not been attributed to the Greeks before. Moreover, no other artifact resembling this mechanism had ever been found from antiquity, making it a one-of-a-kind enigma. The question of who built it, why, and how remained wrapped in mystery. Its discovery challenged the timeline of technological progress. For centuries, it was believed that advanced geared mechanisms only appeared in Europe during the Renaissance, nearly 2,000 years after the Antikythera mechanism was built. This ancient device showed that Greek scientists had invented a complex mechanical calculator far earlier than thought possible. The mechanism's exact function was also tied closely to the religious and social life of its time. Tracking lunar and solar eclipses was vital, as these events were often seen as omens or divine signs. The ability to predict such celestial occurrences would have been a powerful tool, potentially used for navigation, agriculture, or ceremonial purposes. Over the decades, the Antikythera mechanism inspired renewed interest in the history of science. It became clear that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge and skills that modern scholars had underestimated. The mechanism represented not just a technological feat, but a testament to human curiosity and ingenuity long before the modern era. As the device's fragments were carefully pieced back together, researchers came to appreciate the mastery involved in its design. The precision required to manufacture the tiny gears, the mathematical knowledge to calculate the complex cycles, and the craftsmanship to assemble the mechanism all spoke of a culture deeply engaged with the heavens. The Antikythera mechanism remains a symbol of ancient innovation, a mysterious artifact bridging the gap between antiquity and modern science. Its discovery altered how historians viewed the technological achievements of the past and opened new avenues of inquiry into ancient knowledge. From the depths of the Mediterranean, this extraordinary device speaks across millennia, inviting us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient human capability. But the Mediterranean still holds more secrets, not only in the form of complex machines but also in entire cities built upon the sea, waiting silently for their stories to emerge. One such place is Nan Madol, the enigmatic city of stone rising from the ocean waters, revealing another chapter of ancient human mystery. Nan Madol, the city of stone on the sea. In the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, among the scattered islands of Micronesia, lies a place so unique that it defies easy explanation. Nan Madol, often called the Venice of the Pacific, is not a natural formation but a sprawling complex of nearly 100 artificial islets, built from massive basalt stones and interwoven with a network of narrow canals. This ancient city rises from the lagoon waters off the coast of Pohnpei Island, a silent testament to human ingenuity and determination in a remote part of the world. The story of Nan Madol begins somewhere around the 8th or 9th century AD, during the rise of the Sodalur dynasty, the first known centralized government on Pohnpei. For centuries, this dynasty ruled the island from this extraordinary city, a place that served as both the political capital and the religious center of the region. The rulers lived in grand palaces constructed atop these artificial islets, surrounded by temples, tombs, and meeting places, all connected by waterways that cut through the coral reefs. What makes Nan Madol so remarkable is the scale and complexity of its construction. The stones used to build the city are enormous basalt columns, some weighing several tons, with some blocks towering as high as 6 meters. These basalt columns were quarried from nearby islets, but transporting such massive stones across water and then stacking them to build walls, enclosures, and platforms posed an enormous challenge. To this day, researchers debate how the ancient builders managed such a feat without modern cranes or machinery. They had to rely on ropes, logs, and human labor, using techniques lost to history. The basalt columns were shaped and fitted together in a dry masonry style, without mortar, a technique requiring precision and skill to ensure stability. The layout of the city itself is a marvel, with islets arranged in a deliberate pattern to maximize both defensive capabilities and ceremonial function. The canals weaving through Nan Madol allowed inhabitants to travel easily by canoe, integrating the ocean into the very fabric of the city. This waterway network connected residences, administrative centers, and sacred spaces, making water not only a transportation route but a defining architectural element. Despite centuries of archaeological study, many details about Nan Madol remain unclear. The reasons behind the choice to build on coral reefs, the exact social organization required to undertake such construction, and the precise functions of various structures are still matters of speculation. It is certain, however, that Nan Madol was a seat of power, a symbol of the Sodalur dynasty's authority, and a place where religion, politics, and daily life intertwined. The Sodalur rulers held significant spiritual and political influence over the islanders, and their reign lasted for several hundred years. However, by the 17th century, the city was mysteriously abandoned, and the dynasty collapsed. Local legends speak of a tyrannical last ruler whose oppressive rule led to rebellion and the end of settler power. Others suggest environmental factors, such as soil depletion or changes in sea levels, made Nanmadol unsustainable. Whatever the cause, the once grand city was left to the mercy of the ocean and time. Today, Nanmadol stands partially submerged and overgrown, its towering stone walls slowly succumbing to erosion. Despite this, the city's ruins remain hauntingly beautiful, evoking a sense of awe and curiosity. It is a place that connects us to an ancient people whose skills and ambitions produced a monument unlike any other in the Pacific. The mystery of Nanmadol extends beyond its physical construction. The site challenges conventional ideas about the capabilities of early island societies, pushing us to reconsider the extent of their engineering knowledge, social organization, and cultural complexity. How did they coordinate such a massive project in an isolated ocean environment? What rituals and ceremonies took place within the city's stone walls? These questions linger as the waves lap gently against the basalt blocks. Nanmadol's story invites reflection on the impermanence of human achievement and the deep connection between people and their environment. It stands as a monument to a vanished dynasty whose legacy is etched in stone but whose full story remains partly hidden beneath the sea. As Nanmadol's enigmatic presence fades into the mist of history, another mystery calls from a distant land: the sudden and unexplained disappearance of the Maya civilization. Towering pyramids and lush jungles hold silent testimony to a culture that once flourished but then vanished, leaving behind puzzles that continue to intrigue scholars and explorers alike. The disappearance of the Maya civilization. Deep in the dense rainforests of Central America lie the remnants of one of the most remarkable civilizations of the ancient world, the Maya. For centuries, they built magnificent cities adorned with towering pyramids, sprawling plazas, and intricately carved stelae that chronicled their history, rulers, and cosmology. The Maya developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in pre-Columbian America, along with advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. At the height of their power, between approximately 250 and 900 AD, the classic Maya period saw city-states flourish across what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. Cities like Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Calakmul thrived as centers of political power, culture, and religion. Their temples and palaces were adorned with vivid murals, and their calendars marked cycles of time with incredible precision. Yet, by the end of the 9th century, many of these once great cities were abandoned. The thriving urban centers of the southern lowlands fell silent, their monumental architecture slowly reclaimed by the jungle. The reasons behind this dramatic decline remain among archaeology's greatest mysteries. Unlike the collapse of empires that result from foreign invasion or conquest, the Maya decline was complex and multifaceted. Scholars believe a combination of factors contributed to the gradual abandonment of the cities: environmental degradation, prolonged droughts, internal warfare, social upheaval, and disruptions to trade networks. Archaeological evidence reveals signs of deforestation and soil exhaustion caused by intensive agriculture. As the land struggled to support growing populations, food shortages may have sparked conflicts between city-states competing for resources. Inscriptions and murals show evidence of increased warfare and political instability during the late Classic period, which would have further weakened societal cohesion. Perhaps the most compelling clue comes from studies of ancient climate patterns. Analysis of lake sediments and cave formations points to severe and prolonged droughts in the region during the 9th century, coinciding with the decline of southern Maya cities. These droughts would have devastated agriculture, leading to famine and forcing populations to abandon urban centers in search of more hospitable areas. Despite the decline of the southern lowlands, Maya culture was not erased. Northern cities such as Chichen Itza and Uxmal continued to prosper for several more centuries, preserving traditions and knowledge. The Maya people themselves endured, their descendants still living in the region today, preserving many aspects of their ancestral heritage. The disappearance of the classic Maya cities remains a story of transformation rather than extinction. The great stone temples and palaces stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that achieved remarkable feats of art, science, and governance, but which also faced vulnerabilities inherent to human societies dependent on fragile environments. The mystery lies not only in why these cities were abandoned but in how a society so advanced could unravel in a few generations. The Maya left no written records explaining the collapse directly, so researchers pieced together clues from inscriptions, environmental data, and archaeological remains. The fall of the Maya city-states offers a profound lesson on the interplay between humans and their environment, and on the delicate balance necessary to sustain complex societies. Their story invites reflection on resilience, adaptation, and the consequences of ecological and social pressures. As the jungle reclaims the ruins of the Maya, their story echoes far beyond Central America. From the stones of the Pacific to the jungles of the Americas, another ancient artifact draws attention: the Nebra disk, a prehistoric sky map that reveals early human understanding of the cosmos. The Nebra disk, a prehistoric sky map. Nestled within a forest clearing near the small town of Nebra in Germany, a discovery made in 1999 stunned archaeologists and historians alike. A bronze disc dating back over 3,600 years, adorned with golden symbols representing the sun, moon, and stars. This artifact, now known as the Nebra disk, opened a new chapter in our understanding of prehistoric astronomy and human curiosity about the cosmos. The disk itself measures roughly 30 centimeters in diameter and weighs about 2 kilograms. Its surface is decorated with carefully inlaid gold leaf shapes, a large circle interpreted as either the sun or the full moon, a crescent representing the lunar phase, and a cluster of 7 dots believed to symbolize the Pleiades star cluster, a group of stars visible across the world and significant in many ancient cultures. Additional arcs on the edges of the disk are thought to mark the horizon points of the sun's rising and setting during solstices. Dating to around 1600 BC, during the Bronze Age, the Nebra disk was clearly more than a simple artistic object. It likely served as an astronomical instrument or calendar, enabling its users to track solar and lunar cycles with remarkable precision. This was crucial for societies that depended heavily on the changing seasons for agriculture, hunting, and ritual ceremonies. Understanding when to plant crops, when to harvest, or when to celebrate seasonal festivals hinged on accurately predicting celestial events, something the Nebra disk appears designed to assist. What is especially fascinating about the Nebra disk is the level of astronomical knowledge it embodies. Long before the advent of written astronomy or telescopes, prehistoric people demonstrated an intricate understanding of the heavens. This challenges prior assumptions that early Bronze Age Europeans had only rudimentary celestial knowledge. The disk's makers showed the ability to observe and record astronomical phenomena systematically and symbolically. The disk was discovered buried alongside a hoard of Bronze Age artifacts, including swords, axes, and bracelets, suggesting it held great value, possibly ceremonial or status-related. Archaeologists speculate it may have been owned by a high-ranking figure such as a priest or chieftain, someone who mediated between the earthly realm and the cosmos. However, many questions remain about the Nebra disk. How was this knowledge developed and transmitted across generations? Was this astronomical insight unique to the Nebra region, or part of a wider Bronze Age tradition spanning Europe and beyond? And why was such a sophisticated artifact hidden and buried, only to be lost to history for thousands of years? The discovery of the Nebra disk also invites reflection on the relationship between humanity and the night sky. For prehistoric peoples, the stars were not just distant lights but guides for survival, markers of time, and objects of spiritual significance. The disk encapsulates this worldview, blending practical astronomy with myth and ritual. The Nebra disk's discovery has since sparked further archaeological interest in the region, revealing connections to other Bronze Age sites and suggesting a network of knowledge exchange. It also provides a valuable link between early European cultures and the broader development of astronomy worldwide. Today, preserved and displayed in museums, the Nebra disk remains a fragile but powerful symbol of humanity's enduring fascination with the cosmos. It reminds us that even in the distant past, people looked up at the night sky with curiosity and purpose, seeking to understand the patterns that governed their lives. From the ancient skies of Bronze Age Europe, our journey now takes us to the remote South Pacific, where the mysterious Moai statues stand sentinel on Easter Island, stone giants whose origins and meaning continue to captivate and puzzle the modern world. Moai, the walking stone statues of Easter Island. Easter Island, known locally as Rapa Nui, sits isolated in the vast expanse of the southeastern Pacific Ocean, more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continental shore. This remote volcanic island, scarcely 163 square kilometers in size, is world famous for its moai, the colossal stone statues that dot its landscape, standing as silent sentinels of a bygone era. Their mystery captivates historians, archaeologists, and travelers alike, raising questions about the island's ancient inhabitants, their culture, technology, and fate. The moai are impressive in scale. Carved primarily from volcanic tuff, a relatively soft rock found in the quarry of Reino Raraku on the island, the statues average about 4 meters tall, though some reach as high as 10 meters. Weighing several tons, some up to 75 tons, these figures depict human heads and torsos with exaggerated features, large, elongated noses, heavy brows, strong chins, and deep eye sockets. These features are believed to represent the deified ancestors of the Rapa Nui people, meant to watch over their descendants and provide protection. The statues were created roughly between 1250 and 1500 AD, a period marking the height of the island's complex society. Yet, the sheer size and number, close to 900 moai have been counted, raise a fundamental question: how did the island's small population, estimated to be only a few thousand at its peak, carve and transport these statues across rugged terrain without the benefit of wheels, draft animals, or metal tools? Ancient Rapa Nui people used simple stone chisels made from harder volcanic rock to carve the moai from the quarry. However, the mystery deepens when considering transportation. Many statues were found hundreds of meters, even kilometers, away from the quarry where they were carved, often standing upright on stone platforms called ahu near the coast. One traditional account passed down through generations speaks of the statues walking to their locations. This oral tradition intrigued modern researchers, inspiring experiments to test whether the moai could have been rocked forward upright using ropes in a walking motion. In 2012, a team successfully demonstrated that with a coordinated effort, a moai replica could be moved this way, supporting the walking hypothesis. This method of transportation reveals not only the ingenuity of the Rapa Nui but also a strong social cohesion, as moving the statues required community cooperation. It also suggests a spiritual connection, as the statues were believed to be living embodiments of the ancestors, capable of walking to their appointed places. Yet, the effort to carve and transport these massive statues took a toll on the island's fragile environment. To move the moai, trees were cut down for rollers and sledges, leading to widespread deforestation. Over time, the loss of forest cover contributed to soil erosion and reduced agricultural productivity, straining the island's resources. The environmental degradation, combined with social tensions likely exacerbated by competition among clans to erect larger and more numerous statues, may have led to societal collapse by the time Europeans arrived in the 18th century. When Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen landed in 1722, he found toppled statues and a diminished population struggling to survive. The decline of the Rapa Nui civilization and the fate of the Moai reflect the delicate balance between human ambition and nature's limits. The statues themselves stand as silent witnesses to this history, a testament to cultural expression, religious belief, and the costs of unsustainable practices. In recent decades, restoration efforts have re-erected many moai on their original platforms, and the island has become a UNESCO World Heritage Site, drawing scholars and visitors fascinated by this remarkable chapter of human history. The story of the moai blends art, engineering, anthropology, and environmental caution. It invites reflection on how ancient peoples interacted with their world, shaping it in ways both magnificent and tragic. From the remote volcanic island of Rapa Nui, the journey of ancient marvels leads us next to the rolling plains of southern England, where Stonehenge, a circle of massive stones, continues to baffle and inspire with its origins and purpose. Stonehenge, the ancient stones circle challenging time. Across the rolling plains of Wiltshire in southern England stands Stonehenge, one of the world's most iconic and mysterious prehistoric monuments. For thousands of years, its massive stones have withstood the passage of time, weather, and human curiosity, sparking intrigue and wonder about who built it, how, and why. Stonehenge's story begins more than 4,500 years ago, in the late Neolithic period. Unlike the towering stone statues of Easter Island, Stonehenge is a circular arrangement of massive stones, some weighing up to 25 tons, set in concentric rings and horseshoe patterns on a vast chalk plateau. Its construction occurred in several phases spanning centuries, showcasing an evolving vision and technical achievement by prehistoric people. The earliest phase, around 3100 BC, involved digging a circular ditch and bank, known as a henge, forming a monumental earthwork that still encircles the site today. The great standing stones, called sarsens, were erected much later, around 2500 BC, transported from quarries up to 30 miles away. The smaller bluestones, weighing several tons each, were brought from the Preseli Hills in Wales, over 150 miles distant. The logistics alone raise profound questions. How did Neolithic people transport these heavy stones across such distances without modern tools? Experimental archaeology suggests a combination of wooden sledges, rollers, ropes, and sheer human effort over land and waterways. The stones were carefully shaped and placed to align with celestial events, notably the summer and winter solstices. Stonehenge's alignment with the solstices reveals its probable role as a sophisticated astronomical calendar and ceremonial site. On the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone when viewed from the center of the circle, marking the longest day of the year. This precise alignment indicates an advanced understanding of astronomy by its builders. The purpose of Stonehenge has been debated for centuries. It may have served as a temple for sun worship, a burial ground, or a gathering place for social and religious ceremonies. Excavations uncovered cremated human remains, adding weight to the idea of Stonehenge as a sacred site connected with death and ancestral rituals. Beyond its physical construction and astronomical significance, Stonehenge reflects the social complexity of the Neolithic communities. Building and maintaining such a monument required coordinated labor, resource management, and shared beliefs, highlighting a level of organization and culture often underestimated for that era. Yet, despite centuries of research, Stonehenge keeps many secrets. Its original builders left no written records, and many stones mysteriously disappeared or were rearranged in later centuries. The monument's purpose likely evolved over time, blending spiritual, political, and practical functions. In recent decades, the surrounding landscape has revealed additional prehistoric features: ancient settlements, barrows, and cursus monuments, painting a broader picture of a ritual landscape centered on Stonehenge. These discoveries show the site's importance extended far beyond the stone circle itself. Today, Stonehenge draws millions of visitors who come to marvel at its imposing stones and to witness the solstice sunrises and sunsets. It stands not only as a testament to prehistoric engineering but also as a symbol of humanity's enduring quest to understand the cosmos and its place within it. From the mysterious stone circle in England, the trail of ancient wonders leads us across continents and into the realm of technology lost to time. The Baghdad Battery, an enigmatic artifact suggesting the existence of electricity in antiquity. The Baghdad Battery, an ancient source of electricity? In a small museum in Baghdad, Iraq, lies an unassuming artifact that has puzzled scientists and historians for nearly a century. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this ancient object has sparked debates about whether electricity was harnessed thousands of years ago, long before the modern electrical age. The artifact was discovered in the 1930s near the village of Khajurabu, just outside Baghdad. It consists of a clay jar about 15 centimeters tall, containing a copper cylinder encasing an iron rod. The pieces fit snugly inside the jar, which could be sealed with an asphalt stopper. At first glance, it looks like a simple container, but the configuration resembles a primitive galvanic cell, the basic component of a battery. Scholars speculated that if filled with an acidic liquid, such as vinegar or lemon juice, the device might generate a small electric current. This suggestion raised startling questions. Could ancient peoples have known about electricity? And if so, how might they have used it? The dating of the artifact places it roughly in the Parthian period, around 200 BC to 100 CE, a time known for advances in art, science, and trade throughout Mesopotamia. Yet, no direct written record from that era mentions anything resembling electrical experiments or applications. Theories about the battery's purpose range widely. Some propose it was used for electroplating, applying a thin layer of metal onto objects. This would explain the discovery of objects with thin metal coatings, whose manufacturing techniques remain uncertain. Others suggest the jar might have been used as a storage vessel or a religious object, with no connection to electricity at all. Skeptics point out the absence of electrical wiring or evidence of usage alongside the battery. The jar's seal might have corroded quickly, limiting any practical application. Moreover, the idea that ancient Mesopotamians built electric batteries sounds implausible given the lack of supporting archaeological evidence. Nevertheless, experimental recreations of the Baghdad battery show it can indeed produce a small voltage. Modern replicas with vinegar as an electrolyte have generated a fraction of a volt, enough to power a tiny device or create a mild electric shock. Beyond the battery itself, the Baghdad battery captures imagination because it challenges our assumptions about technological progress. Did knowledge of electricity exist in fragmented or secret forms that were lost to history? Or is this an example of coincidental resemblance between ancient artifacts and modern devices? Regardless, the artifact highlights the ingenuity of ancient craftsmen. The jar's design is sophisticated, demonstrating an understanding of materials and containment. Whether or not it functioned as a battery, it stands as a symbol of ancient curiosity about the natural world. The mystery of the Baghdad battery reminds us that the past holds many surprises, and technology may not always progress in a straightforward line. As history unfolds layer by layer, some discoveries blur the boundary between myth and reality, sparking ongoing debates among scholars. From the ancient Mesopotamian artifact hinting at lost knowledge of electricity, we journey to another enigma: the colossal stone heads of the Olmec civilization, faces staring out from the distant past with silent stories etched in basalt. Olmec colossal heads, faces from a forgotten past. Deep within the tropical lowlands of modern-day Mexico, amid the ruins of a once thriving civilization, lie a series of extraordinary sculptures known as the Olmec colossal heads. These massive stone portraits, each carved from a single basalt boulder, stand as silent witnesses to a culture shrouded in mystery and time. The Olmecs, flourishing between 1400 and 400 BC, are often considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, influencing later civilizations such as the Maya and Aztecs. Their artistry is renowned for its distinct style and sophisticated craftsmanship, but none of their creations captures the imagination quite like these monumental heads. Each head ranges in height from about 1.5 to nearly 3.5 meters and weighs several tons. Their defining feature is the remarkably detailed faces, each with unique characteristics: broad noses, thick lips, and almond-shaped eyes, often wearing helmets or headgear that hint at possible ceremonial or athletic significance. The stones from which the heads were carved were quarried dozens, sometimes hundreds, of kilometers away and transported to their final sites, a remarkable feat given the lack of wheeled vehicles or draft animals. The logistics of moving these immense boulders through dense jungle and rugged terrain remains a puzzle, underscoring the Olmec's organizational skill. The purpose of these heads remains elusive. Many scholars believe they depict rulers or important figures, possibly warriors or ballplayers. The helmets suggest a link to the Mesoamerican ballgame, a ritualistic sport with deep cultural and spiritual meaning. What makes the heads especially intriguing is their enigmatic expression. Unlike many ancient sculptures that idealize their subjects, the Olmec heads seem to capture individual likenesses, with subtle differences in facial features and expressions. This level of realism, combined with their scale, hints at a sophisticated portrait tradition long before the Renaissance. However, despite their craftsmanship, the Olmecs left no known written records explaining these sculptures' significance. Their script, if any existed, remains undeciphered, leaving us to interpret their art and architecture through archaeology alone. The discovery of these colossal heads in the 19th and early 20th centuries challenged preconceived notions about ancient American civilizations. Initially dismissed or misunderstood, they now stand as key evidence of a complex society with social stratification, religious practices, and artistic innovation. Interestingly, the head style differs notably from later Mesoamerican art, suggesting shifts in cultural or political paradigms. Some even speculate about external influences, though these remain speculative. Over time, many heads have suffered erosion, looting, or damage, yet several have been carefully preserved in museums and archaeological parks. Their silent gazes continue to inspire awe and curiosity about the people who once crafted them. From these ancient stone faces staring into the jungle emerges another story of a legendary civilization, lost beneath the waves, the fabled Atlantis. This mythic tale has captivated imaginations for centuries and remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Atlantis, the sunken legendary civilization. Among the greatest enigmas woven into the fabric of human history lies the tale of Atlantis, a civilization that once stood at the pinnacle of power and knowledge, only to vanish beneath the waves, leaving behind stories that have echoed for millennia. This is not just a story of a lost land, but a reflection of humanity's enduring fascination with the rise and fall of great societies, the fragility of human achievement, and the mysteries hidden beneath the earth and sea. The earliest and most influential account of Atlantis comes from the Greek philosopher Plato, who lived in the 4th century BC. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato presents Atlantis as a mighty island empire located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the modern Strait of Gibraltar, suggesting it existed somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. According to him, Atlantis was a vast territory, larger than Libya and Asia combined, a marvel of engineering and civilization. Plato's narrative describes Atlantis as a land of incredible wealth, with fertile plains, towering mountains, and a complex system of canals and bridges that connected the capital city's concentric rings of land and water. The Atlanteans were said to be the descendants of the god Poseidon and a mortal woman, blessed with great power and wisdom. They built palaces adorned with precious metals, temples decorated with gold and orichalcum, a legendary metal mentioned by Plato, and possessed advanced technology for their time. For centuries, this story was considered by many as pure allegory, a philosophical device through which Plato explored ideas about ideal societies, hubris, and moral decay. Atlantis was portrayed as a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed and the loss of virtue, with the gods punishing the Atlanteans for their arrogance by sinking their island in a cataclysmic event. Yet, as centuries passed, the line between myth and history blurred. Explorers, historians, and archaeologists have speculated endlessly about whether Atlantis was a real place or simply a symbolic tale. Some have suggested that Plato's account may have been inspired by real events, natural disasters that destroyed advanced civilizations around the Mediterranean. One popular theory points to the Minoan civilization on Crete and the catastrophic volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Santorini, ancient Thera, around 1600 BC. This disaster devastated the Minoans, whose sophisticated society and culture rivaled that of Atlantis in many ways. The sudden destruction, the tsunami triggered by the eruption, and the subsequent decline of the Minoans might have influenced stories about a sunken land. Others propose the Azores Islands, located in the mid-Atlantic, as a possible remnant of Atlantis. Geological studies show that these islands are volcanic and sit on the edge of a submerged plateau, raising speculation that parts of the landmass sank due to seismic activity. Beyond geographical theories, Atlantis represents a symbol, a longing for a lost golden age and a warning from history about the vulnerability of human civilization. The story challenges assumptions about progress, asking us to consider that even the mightiest cultures can fall, leaving little more than legends behind. Despite the absence of concrete archaeological evidence, the Atlantis myth continues to captivate the popular imagination. It has inspired countless books, films, and expeditions searching for traces of an advanced ancient world now beneath the ocean. The mystery taps into a universal theme: the human desire to discover origins and understand the forces that shape history. From the depths of myth and the ocean's abyss, our gaze turns now toward the mighty stones of Baalbek, massive monoliths that stand testament to ancient engineering feats and mysteries just as profound, carved not in myth but in the very bedrock of Lebanon. Baalbek, the massive stone giants standing tall. In the heart of the Bekaa Valley in modern-day Lebanon lies Baalbek, an ancient site that commands awe and curiosity. Known for its monumental stone structures, Baalbek houses some of the largest stones ever moved and placed by human hands. These colossal blocks, weighing hundreds to thousands of tons each, stand as silent witnesses to an engineering marvel from the distant past, one that continues to puzzle historians, archaeologists, and engineers alike. The history of Baalbek stretches back thousands of years, but it reached its zenith under Roman rule. The Romans transformed the site into a grand temple complex dedicated primarily to Jupiter, the king of their gods. What they built was monumental, a vast sanctuary featuring massive columns and enormous stone platforms designed to support towering temples. Yet the wonder of Baalbek goes beyond Roman achievements. The platform upon which the temples rest is made from gigantic limestone blocks, some weighing over 1,000 tons. The most famous among them are the so-called megaliths of the trilithon, 3 enormous stones arranged side by side, each about 19 meters long, 4.3 meters high, and estimated to weigh around 800 to 1,000 tons. Nearby, an even larger stone, dubbed the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, lies half buried, measuring approximately 20 meters long and estimated to weigh over 1,200 tons. How ancient builders quarried, transported, and positioned these stones with the technology available at the time remains an open question. Conventional archaeological explanations suggest the Romans used a combination of ramps, rollers, and sheer manpower. Still, many find it hard to reconcile the scale and precision of the work with the tools known to have existed over 2,000 years ago. The mystery deepens when considering the foundation of Baalbek itself. Some of the massive stones predate the Roman temples, hinting at earlier civilizations that might have prepared the site long before Roman expansion. This has led to speculation that the Romans built upon a much older platform, whose builders remain unidentified. The origin of these massive stones, and the techniques used to move them, evoke questions about the true extent of ancient engineering capabilities. Adding to the intrigue are the myths and legends surrounding Baalbek. Locally, it is sometimes called Heliopolis, or the City of the Sun, a name reflecting its importance as a religious center. Stories abound of giants and supernatural forces helping in the construction of the enormous stones. These tales, though fanciful, echo the awe and reverence people have felt toward Baalbek across generations. Beyond the physical mystery, Baalbek stands as a symbol of ancient ambition, a desire to reach toward the heavens, to create lasting monuments in stone that defy time and gravity. It challenges modern assumptions about the limits of ancient societies and invites us to reconsider what was possible long before the Industrial Age. As the sun sets behind the towering stones of Baalbek, casting long shadows across the valley, the question lingers: who were the original architects, and what knowledge did they possess that we have yet to uncover? From these immense stones forged in Lebanon, our journey moves toward an even older mystery carved in rock, the strange petroglyphs at Göbekli Tepe, where prehistoric humans left enigmatic images that hint at beliefs and creatures lost to time. Göbekli Tepe, the strange creature carvings from a prehistoric sanctuary. Nestled atop a gentle hill in southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe quietly stands as one of humanity's most remarkable archaeological treasures. Uncovered only in the late 20th century, this site has upended conventional ideas about the dawn of civilization. Dating back over 11,000 years, Göbekli Tepe predates the great Egyptian pyramids and Stonehenge by millennia. But it is not merely its age that captivates. Göbekli Tepe's true mystery lies in the striking stone pillars adorned with enigmatic carvings, some depicting bizarre creatures that challenge our understanding of prehistoric art and belief systems. Göbekli Tepe was not a city or a typical settlement, but rather a complex of large circular and oval structures, supported by enormous T-shaped limestone pillars. These pillars stand up to 6 meters tall and weigh several tons each. What makes these pillars exceptional is their intricate reliefs carved deep into the stone surfaces. Most carvings portray animals familiar to the region: lions, snakes, boars, foxes, vultures, and wildcats, depicted with astonishing detail and lifelike dynamism. Yet among these recognizable beasts are images that defy easy explanation. These strange figures often appear as hybrids, combining the features of multiple animals or merging animal and human characteristics. Some carvings display heads with horns or beaks attached to humanoid bodies. Others show fantastical creatures that do not correspond to any known species from either the animal kingdom or human imagination. These images evoke creatures of myth and legend, monsters, spirits, or gods from a lost prehistoric belief system. The purpose of these carvings and the site itself remains a puzzle. Most researchers agree that Göbekli Tepe functioned as a ritual center or a temple, a gathering place for early hunter-gatherer societies who had yet to develop agriculture. The site's immense scale and craftsmanship suggest an advanced level of social organization and symbolic thought, surprising given that it was constructed thousands of years before the rise of cities or written language. The strange carvings may represent totemic animals or spiritual entities, central to the religious practices of Göbekli Tepe's builders. These enigmatic figures could have embodied forces of nature, ancestral spirits, or supernatural protectors. Their composite forms hint at a complex mythology, where the boundaries between humans, animals, and spirits blurred. Göbekli Tepe forces us to rethink human history. It shows that long before farming or permanent settlements, humans possess rich spiritual lives, sophisticated symbolic art, and the ability to coordinate monumental construction projects. The site's discovery challenges the assumption that complex religion and social hierarchies emerged only after the development of agriculture. Despite decades of excavation, many questions remain. Who exactly were the builders? What inspired their strange carvings? Were these images meant to warn, to protect, or to tell stories now lost to time? And how did they carve and transport such massive stones with the tools available to them at the dawn of the Neolithic Age? The site also raises more practical questions. How did these people manage to organize the workforce, carve, and erect such immense stones with simple tools? The precision of the carvings and the architectural design is astonishing, hinting at a level of engineering and craftsmanship not expected of hunter-gatherer groups. As you stand before these towering stones today, the strange creatures carved into their surfaces seem to watch silently from across the ages, guardians of secrets humanity has only begun to uncover. From the enigmatic carvings of Göbekli Tepe, we turn our attention to another ancient enigma, the lost city of Mohenjo-Daro, where an entire civilization vanished without a trace, leaving behind ruins that still hold many secrets of the distant past. The lost city of Mohenjo-Daro vanished without a trace. In the vast plains of the Indus River Valley, more than 4,000 years ago, lay one of the world's earliest urban marvels, Mohenjo-Daro. Once a thriving city of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, Mohenjo-Daro was a testament to human ingenuity and advanced urban planning during the Bronze Age. Yet today, its ruins lie silent under the sands of time, a haunting reminder of a civilization that disappeared mysteriously, leaving behind questions that continue to puzzle historians, archaeologists, and curious minds alike. Discovered in the 1920s during archaeological excavations in what is now modern-day Pakistan, Mohenjo-Daro stunned researchers with its remarkably sophisticated infrastructure. Unlike many ancient cities that were haphazardly constructed, Mohenjo-Daro was laid out with precise grid patterns, wide streets intersecting at right angles, and an advanced drainage system that rivaled those of modern cities. Houses were built with baked bricks, often featuring multiple stories, private wells, and bathrooms connected to a citywide sewage system, a level of urban planning that suggests a highly organized and centralized society. One of the most famous features of Mohenjo-Daro is the Great Bath, a large, watertight pool built from finely fitted bricks. Scholars believe it was used for religious or ritual purification purposes, hinting at complex spiritual or social customs. The city also contained granaries, marketplaces, and public buildings, indicating a prosperous economy likely based on agriculture, trade, and craft production. Despite these impressive achievements, Mohenjo-Daro and its civilization vanished suddenly around 1900 BC. Unlike other ancient civilizations whose collapse was documented by wars or invasions, Mohenjo-Daro's disappearance left almost no written record of its decline. The Indus script, though present on seals and artifacts, remains undeciphered, silencing any first-person account from the people themselves. Theories abound regarding what caused the decline and abandonment of Mohenjo-Daro. Some scholars suggest environmental factors. Shifts in the course of the Indus River may have deprived the city of its water supply, or repeated flooding might have damaged the infrastructure. Others point to climate change, with evidence of a long drought making agriculture unsustainable. There are also suggestions of social upheaval, perhaps internal conflict, economic decline, or disease played a role. Unlike civilizations such as Egypt or Mesopotamia, Mohenjo-daro shows no clear evidence of warfare or violent destruction. Instead, the city seems to have been slowly abandoned, its streets and houses left to decay. The mystery deepens with the lack of monumental temples or palaces, raising questions about the nature of Mohenjo-daro's political and religious life. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or ziggurats of Mesopotamia, this city appears to have been relatively egalitarian, with no obvious ruling class artifacts or lavish tombs. This absence challenges assumptions about how ancient societies functioned and suggests a different social structure, one perhaps based more on communal organization than centralized power. Archaeologists continue to study Mohenjo-daro using modern technologies like satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and chemical analysis of soil and artifacts. These efforts have revealed clues about trade routes, diet, and daily life, but have yet to fully solve the enigma of the city's sudden disappearance. Visiting Mohenjo-daro today, one encounters silent streets, crumbled walls, and fragments of a once vibrant city now swallowed by earth. The silence seems to echo the lost voices of its inhabitants, their lives and stories forever suspended between history and mystery. From the quiet ruins of Mohenjo-daro, our journey of ancient enigmas takes us to a surprising find in the deserts of Egypt, an ancient engraving that looks curiously like a modern machine, the Abydos plane carving. The Abydos plane carving, an ancient image that defies time. Deep within the arid lands of southern Egypt lies the ancient site of Abydos, a necropolis known primarily as a sacred burial ground for early Egyptian kings. The temple complexes and tombs scattered across Abydos are remarkable for their inscriptions, hieroglyphics, and reliefs that chronicle the lives, gods, and legends of the ancient Egyptians. Yet, hidden among the carvings at the Temple of Seti is a puzzling and controversial image, an engraving that to many modern eyes looks strikingly like a modern airplane, a helicopter, and even a submarine. This peculiar, Abydos plane carving has fueled speculation, debate, and intrigue for decades. The carvings in question are located on the ceiling of one of Seti's chapels, dating back to the 13th century BC. Seti was a pharaoh of Egypt's 19th dynasty, known for his extensive building projects and dedication to restoring the grandeur of Egypt's temples. His tomb at Abydos was decorated with traditional scenes, hieroglyphs, and religious iconography typical of the period. However, when certain hieroglyphs were carved over and subsequently worn down or damaged over thousands of years, an unexpected visual illusion emerged, one that resembles sleek modern vehicles, as if from the era of jets and submarines. At first glance, the carvings appear to depict a helicopter with rotors, a fighter jet, and a small submarine, all rendered in profile. These shapes seem so out of place in an ancient temple that they challenge everything we think we know about ancient Egyptian technology and knowledge. Skeptics point out that these shapes are simply the result of overlapping hieroglyphs caused by the ancient practice of palimpsest, where older inscriptions were plastered over and recarved. Over time, erosion and the blending of glyphs create ambiguous images that our modern brains interpret as familiar objects. Despite the conventional archaeological explanation, the Abydos plane has captivated conspiracy theorists, alternative historians, and enthusiasts of ancient mysteries. Some suggest that this carving is evidence of lost advanced technology, or even ancient contact with extraterrestrial beings. Others claim it hints that the ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge far beyond what history currently acknowledges. But what if the truth is less about secret technologies and more about how time, damage, and human interpretation intertwine? The original inscriptions that were carved over belonged to different reigns and different kings. As new rulers sought to assert their authority, they would modify existing monuments by carving their own names and symbols atop older ones. This practice inevitably led to layers of overlapping glyphs. As the plaster and paint wore away, the overlapping shapes blended into strange, unfamiliar silhouettes. This accidental merging of forms highlights the challenges of interpreting ancient art and texts, especially when centuries of wear have obscured their original meaning. Our modern minds, shaped by contemporary technology, tend to see airplanes and helicopters in these images because we are primed to recognize these shapes. The human brain seeks patterns and familiar forms, often projecting modern concepts onto ancient symbols. Regardless of interpretation, the Abydos carvings remind us that history is not always clear-cut. The passage of time blurs the lines between fact and illusion, between what once was and what now seems. These ambiguous images prompt reflection on how we reconstruct the past, how knowledge can be lost and transformed, and how mysteries often lie in the spaces between certainty and speculation. The site of Abydos itself holds many other secrets, including well-preserved tombs, majestic temples, and intricate wall paintings. It was a major religious center dedicated to Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and as such played a vital role in Egyptian spiritual life. But among its many marvels, the Abydos Plain remains one of the most enigmatic, sparking debates that cross the boundaries between archaeology, mythology, and the realm of possibility. From the strange carvings in Abydos that blur the lines between ancient hieroglyphs and modern machines, we turn to another colossal mystery: the giant Buddha statues of Bamiyan, which once soared over the Afghan valleys before vanishing from sight, leaving a legacy that echoes far beyond their shattered remains. The vanished giants of Bamiyan, when stone lost its voice. High in the arid valley of Bamiyan, Afghanistan, where the wind whispers through the cliffs and dust settles in layers upon ancient rock, there once stood two colossal figures carved into the very bones of the earth. These weren't just statues. They were sentinels of time, silent witnesses to 1,000 years of faith, conflict, and forgotten stories. Towering at 55 meters and 38 meters respectively, the Bamiyan Buddhas were sculpted directly into the sandstone cliffs during the 6th century CE, standing guard over a once thriving Buddhist community along the Silk Road. At the time of their creation, Bamiyan was a cultural crossroads. Greek, Persian, Indian, and Chinese influences converged in the valley, giving rise to a flourishing center of Buddhist art and thought. The two massive standing Buddhas were more than symbols of spiritual enlightenment. They were manifestations of a unique cultural fusion. Behind them, a vast network of cave monasteries, painted with vibrant murals and Buddhist iconography, stretched deep into the cliffs, housing monks who meditated, taught, and transcribed sacred texts in the cool darkness of the rock. Early travelers like the Chinese monk Xuanzang, Huan-Sang, who passed through Bamiyan in the 7th century, wrote vivid descriptions of the Buddhas, noting their towering height and golden appearance. He spoke of a thriving Buddhist community, of pilgrims who came to pay homage, and of the way the sun lit up the statues' faces at dawn. These weren't remote relics, forgotten in obscurity. They were known, revered, alive in the stories of those who saw them. But time, as it always does, changed everything. Centuries passed. Buddhism faded from the region. The valley fell under Islamic influence. Earthquakes struck. Empires rose and fell. Yet the Buddhas endured, silent, stoic, and crumbling slowly but with dignity. Until March 2001, when the world watched in horror as the Taliban, citing religious prohibition of idolatry, systematically destroyed both statues with explosives. Over several weeks, a calculated campaign reduced the stone giants to rubble. It was not just a cultural loss. It was a wound cut deep into the heritage of humanity. The images of the explosions, of ancient rock torn apart by modern hatred, echoed across the globe. The Taliban's act was more than iconoclasm. It was an erasure, an attempt to wipe away memory itself. And yet, ironically, in their destruction, the Buddhas became more famous than ever. Where once few outside of Afghanistan had heard of them, suddenly their absence spoke volumes. The gaping voids left in the cliffs became symbols of loss, resistance, and the fragility of cultural memory. They reminded the world that even the greatest of human creations, monuments that took decades to carve and centuries to revere, can vanish in moments. But the Buddhas were not entirely lost. Fragments of the statues, bits of robes, fingers, and facial features, were recovered from the rubble and stored in nearby caves. Scholars and archaeologists scrambled to document everything they could. 3D scanning teams from Japan and Europe digitally reconstructed the statues using old photographs and measurements. There was talk of rebuilding, of projecting holograms into the empty alcoves, of preserving the absence as a reminder rather than filling the void. Each idea was debated with passion, politics, and pain. What made the destruction all the more tragic was the realization of how advanced the original craftsmanship had been. Researchers found traces of pigments, suggesting the Buddhas were once painted in brilliant reds, blues, and golds. The largest statue had a wooden framework inside, covered in a clay stucco mixture that allowed for intricate detailing, folds in the robe, expressions on the face, patterns that echoed Greek and Gandharan styles. These were not rough carvings but masterpieces of devotion and design. Today, the Bamiyan Valley is quiet once more. Tourists still come, though fewer than before. The cave monasteries remain, their murals fading, their silence heavy. The niches where the Buddhas stood are now empty, but not forgotten. On special occasions, international groups illuminate them with laser projections, ghostly reminders of what once was. Locals, too, hold small ceremonies, remembering a heritage that lives on in memory if not in stone. In a strange way, the Buddhas have become more present in their absence. They haunt documentaries, exhibitions, schoolbooks, and digital archives. They are discussed in UNESCO panels, studied by historians, and mourned by millions. Their destruction, while irreversible, has given them a second life, not as monuments, but as symbols of cultural resilience and the human need to remember. There is something eerily profound about standing in front of those giant, hollowed-out alcoves today. The rock bears scars. The empty spaces seem to breathe. And if you close your eyes, you can almost imagine the towering figures, calm, compassionate, ancient, still watching over the valley, still whispering something only the stones can hear. Perhaps that is the true mystery of Bamiyan. Not how the Buddhas were built, not even why they were destroyed, but how, despite everything, they have refused to disappear from the world's collective soul. As the sun sets behind the cliffs, casting long shadows over the dust and silence, the story of Bamiyan leaves us with a question that echoes into the next mystery. What other monuments, what other giants carved into history, are waiting to vanish before we even know they exist? Next, we travel west across continents, to the highlands of Peru. There, above the city of Cusco, lies a stone fortress with walls so precisely fitted, no mortar was needed. The blocks are massive, weighing up to 200 tons, yet they interlock with uncanny perfection. Our journey continues at Sacsayhuaman, a riddle in stone, defying time, gravity, and logic. Sacsayhuaman, the stone fortress that defied the chisel. Perched high in the Peruvian Andes, overlooking the red-roofed city of Cusco, lies a fortress that seems to defy the limitations of ancient engineering. Sacsayhuaman, its very name echoing through the centuries, is no crumbling ruin. It stands with a quiet defiance, its colossal stone walls locked in a puzzle of impossible precision. Blocks weighing as much as 120 tons sit flush against each other, unmortared, untouched by time or blade. They are not merely stacked, but shaped to flow into one another with subtle curves and joins, as though the stone had once been soft as clay. This was no ordinary stronghold. Though Spanish chronicles identified it as a military fortress, its grandeur suggests something greater. Built by the Inca civilization, Sacsayhuaman was a project of ambition, vision, and spiritual magnitude. The Inca did not just build with stone, they conversed with it, respected it, shaped it with reverence. And nowhere is that conversation louder than here. The zigzagging walls form 3 tiers, creating a pattern that resembles lightning bolts or the teeth of a great puma. From above, the site was said to form the head of this sacred animal, with Cusco itself as the body. To the Inca, this was no coincidence. Every structure, every line drawn into the earth was deliberate, aligned with celestial patterns and the natural world. The landscape was not an obstacle. It was part of the design. But it is the stones themselves that leave the strongest impression. Some rise over 4 meters tall, their surfaces smooth yet bearing subtle traces of their carving. Others curve into one another with such complexity that modern stonemasons still debate how they were shaped. No gaps exist between them, not even a sliver of light makes it through. The walls have withstood centuries of earthquakes, while many of the colonial buildings in nearby Cusco have crumbled and been rebuilt time and again. How did the Inca move such massive stones? The nearest quarry is miles away. With no wheels, no iron tools, and no written records of construction, the process remains cloaked in uncertainty. Some theories suggest that teams of workers used ramps, ropes, and manpower, an army of laborers coordinating their strength with stunning precision. Others speak of the Incas' deep understanding of balance, weight, and terrain. And then there are those who point to ancient knowledge now lost, methods forgotten in the chaos of conquest. The Spanish arrived in the 16th century, and with them came a different view of Sacsayhuaman. They saw the stones as a source of building material. Much of the upper structure was dismantled, carted away to build homes and churches in Cusco. What remains today are the massive foundation walls, still standing, still unshaken. They form the bones of the place, too heavy to be easily moved or destroyed. But the Inca never saw Sacsayhuaman as just a fortress. During the great festival of Inti Raymi, the festival of the sun, the site came alive with music, dance, and ritual. Thousands gathered to honor the sun god Inti, offering thanks for harvests, rain, and life itself. The rhythms of the festival echoed between the stone walls, rising into the high Andean sky. Even after the fall of the empire, the echoes of these rituals lingered. For centuries, locals continued to visit the site, passing stories from one generation to the next. They spoke of how lightning shaped the stones, of how giant builders moved them with chants and songs. They told of hidden chambers and tunnels beneath the fortress, some stretching all the way to Cusco's cathedral, others descending into the earth. Whether these tales held truth or metaphor, they spoke to something real, the sense that Sacsayhuaman was more than stone. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence that supports this deeper purpose. Beneath the plaza, they have found underground channels, water systems, and carved features suggesting ceremonial use. The site may have functioned as both fortress and temple, an axis of power where the divine and political merged. In Inca thought, there was no strict line between the sacred and the practical. A wall could be both defense and devotion. Even now, Sacsayhuaman continues to provoke wonder. On solstices and equinoxes, visitors report unusual light patterns, shadows cast at perfect angles, sunbeams aligning with specific stones. Researchers mapped the site with drones and lasers, trying to unravel its geometry. Artists sketched the curves of the stones, mimicking the rhythms of the builders. And locals still climbed the hill for Inti Raymi, where actors in gold and feathers reenact ancient ceremonies against the silent gaze of the stones. What remains perhaps most striking is how little the site demands your attention. It does not shout for recognition. It waits. It lets the wind and the clouds do the talking. Walk along its walls, run your fingers over their cold, smooth surfaces, and the questions rise not from the site, but from within. There is a timeless stillness at Sacsayhuaman, a gravity not just physical, but emotional. In its presence, the idea of ancient changes. These stones do not feel old, they feel enduring. As though they've always been here, and always will be. And perhaps, in that silence, the spirit of the Inca still watches. As we descend from the Andes and cross oceans to the east, we find ourselves facing a different kind of stone puzzle. In the heart of China, buried beneath layers of earth and time, lie strange metallic pipes embedded in ancient rock. The site is remote, the evidence baffling. Some claim the pipes are 150,000 years old. Others dismiss them as natural formations. But their shape, their arrangement, too precise, too intentional, keep the questions alive. This is the mystery of the 150,000-year-old metal pipes of China. The 150,000-year-old metal pipes of China, ancient engineering or natural wonder? High on the Tibetan plateau, where the wind whips across the rugged landscape and time seems to move at a slower rhythm, there lies a place that has stirred quiet fascination for decades. It's called Mount Baigong, a solitary mountain rising from the desolate plains near the town of Dalinga in China's Qinghai province. At first glance, the area seems untouched by history, no grand ruins, no inscriptions, no temples weathered by centuries. But as one approaches the foot of the mountain, an odd sight disrupts the stillness: rust-colored pipes, some embedded in stone, others poking from the earth like broken bones. It's here that the mystery begins. Locals have long told stories about Mount Baigong. For generations, they spoke of ancient beings, of lights in the sky, of strange sounds echoing from within the rock. Some believed the area to be haunted. Others simply avoided it. It wasn't until the early 2000s that the first serious investigations began, sparked by media reports and curious researchers who found what appeared to be hundreds of pipe-like structures protruding from the ground and lodged deep into the stone of the mountain. Some of the pipes were as thin as drinking straws, others, as wide as a man's leg. They crisscrossed the mountain's slope and appeared near the shores of nearby Lake Tosan. Many were broken, their insides hollow, rusted through with age. What startled observers wasn't just their shape or number, but their placement. Some led deep into the mountain, embedded in solid rock. Others jutted from caves. A few, it was claimed, formed patterns that seemed intentional. Early reports went viral across Chinese and international media. The possibility that they were over 150,000 years old, based on certain geological estimates, sent imaginations racing. The pipes, it was said, could not be the work of any known civilization. After all, history teaches that the earliest smelting of metal in China happened no more than 9,000 years ago. So who could have made these, and why? Chinese scientists were among the first to visit the site in an official capacity. Their teams collected samples of the pipes and analyzed their composition. The results only deepened the enigma. The pipes were made primarily of iron, but also included silicon dioxide, calcium oxide, and traces of rare metals. One Chinese researcher reportedly found that some of the material had a high degree of radioactivity. Further tests suggested the pipes had been exposed to extreme heat at some point in their existence, possibly from manufacturing, or perhaps from natural processes. Their age, too, was hard to pin down. While no direct method could confirm a 150,000-year timeline, one estimate based on the degree of oxidation suggested a very ancient origin. The mystery remained open. Some scientists offered a more mundane theory, that the pipes were not pipes at all, but fossilized tree roots. Under certain geological conditions, organic matter can decay and leave behind mineralized casts that resemble tubes or pipes. The theory, while plausible, failed to explain the sheer number and symmetry of the bygone formations. Others speculated about natural mineral veins forming hollow tubes through volcanic activity, though that too did not account for their iron content or arrangement. The location of the pipes also stirred questions. A nearby cave, dubbed the Bygone Cave, appears to be the epicenter of the formations. Its walls are embedded with some of the largest pipe structures, and from its entrance, one can look down on the wide plain below, a view that would have been advantageous to anyone seeking a strategic or ritual vantage point. But there are no carvings, no artifacts, no pottery shards or remnants of tools. If a civilization was here, it left behind only these strange iron relics. Outside the cave, near Lake Tosan, more pipes rise from the shoreline. Some reach into the water, leading some to suggest they were once part of a water system or ancient infrastructure. But to what end? There are no settlements, no ruins, no roads, nothing but open land and silence. The area remains largely undeveloped. The Chinese government, perhaps cautious of fueling wild speculation, did not pursue the mystery aggressively. Tourists are discouraged from approaching the cave, and researchers require special permission to enter the region. Despite this, stories continue to circulate. Some believe the pipes are the remnants of a forgotten human civilization that predated all known history. Others wonder if they are evidence of non-human intelligence, a long-lost visit, now rusted and buried by the passage of epochs. Mount Bygone has even been linked, in whispers and forums, to the broader catalogue of Earth's ancient anomalies. Some draw comparisons to the Baghdad Battery, the Nazca Lines, or the Antikythera mechanism, objects and sites that seem too advanced, too calculated for their supposed era. But Bygone's mystery is colder, lonelier. It offers no beauty or elegance. Just rusted iron poking from rock. Over the years, interest has waxed and waned. Occasionally, new expeditions reignite public attention. Most leave with more samples, more questions, and the same lack of definitive answers. The pipes remain. Silent. Eroding. Watching. And perhaps that's what makes the Bygone mystery so compelling. Not its grandeur, but its starkness. In the absence of context, of records of purpose, our minds are forced to reach back through the fog of time and wonder what might have been. From the dusty plains of China, we now journey westward to the land of pyramids and ancient riddles. A monument that has stood longer than any written book, aligned with the stars, towering over sand and time. The Great Pyramid of Giza, majestic, immovable, and still unsolved. The Great Pyramid of Giza, an unsolved monument of precision. Standing at the edge of the Giza Plateau, beyond the smog and roar of modern Cairo, the Great Pyramid of Giza rises not just as a structure of stone, but as a challenge to the limits of human understanding. For over 4,500 years, this colossal tomb, if that's truly what it is, has cast its shadow over the desert, weathering time, conquest, and speculation alike. It's the last of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing. Yet for all its fame, it is not well understood. Constructed from over 2 million limestone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, the pyramid was originally encased in polished white Tura limestone that reflected the sun so brightly, ancient texts say it could be seen shining from miles away. That casing has long since been stripped away by earthquakes and looters, but what remains still stirs all. Its base covers 13 acres. Each side, originally 230 meters long, is aligned to true north with astonishing accuracy, deviating by only 3/60th of a degree. Engineers, mathematicians, and archaeologists alike have puzzled over these feats. How did a people with no steel tools or modern machinery cut, transport, and place such massive stones with such precision? The mainstream theory holds that the pyramid was built over a span of 2 decades during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops, around 2560 BC. But how that was achieved is still a matter of debate. Theories abound. Some propose vast ramp systems, either spiraling around the outside or built straight and dismantled afterward. Others suggest more radical ideas: counterweights, internal spiral ramps, even sound-based levitation in fringe circles. But the evidence remains elusive. Inside, the pyramid is no less mysterious. Its core includes the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the enigmatic Grand Gallery, each aligned and proportioned with a geometric precision that rivals modern architecture. The King's Chamber is constructed entirely of red granite blocks transported over 800 kilometers from Aswan. The chamber is topped by 5 relieving chambers, stacked above to distribute weight, a solution that modern engineers still admire. Yet, oddly, no hieroglyphs or inscriptions exist inside the pyramid. No records, dedications, or detailed plans have ever been found. The only marking is a small, disputed red scrawl naming a work gang, often cited as proof the pyramid was indeed built by Khufu. But for many, this single, crude marking feels inadequate to explain the vast scope and intention of the structure. And then there are the numbers. Researchers have long noted mathematical relationships embedded in the pyramid's dimensions. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height closely approximates 2 pi, suggesting a knowledge of pi centuries before it was known to the Greeks. Others point out relationships to the golden ratio, the Earth's dimensions, and even astronomical cycles. While skeptics warn against reading too much into numerical coincidences, the patterns persist. Were they intentional? If so, what was their purpose? In 2017, scientists using cosmic ray imaging discovered a previously unknown void deep inside the pyramid, a 30-meter-long chamber above the Grand Gallery. Its purpose, as of now, is unknown. Some believe it could be a structural feature. Others wonder if it hides secrets yet to be revealed. And there's more. The pyramid is aligned with incredible accuracy to the cardinal points: north, south, east, and west. Its placement on the Earth's surface is also curious. It sits near the geographic center of all land masses. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's the kind of detail that fuels endless speculation. Then there's the shaft mystery. 4 narrow shafts extend from the King's and Queen's chambers. Long thought to be ventilation ducts, modern scans show that at least 2 of them end in tiny stone doors with copper handles, sealed and inaccessible. No air flows through them. Were they symbolic pathways for the soul? Or perhaps a guide to the stars? The shafts align with Sirius and Orion's belt, stars closely associated with ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. Despite countless studies and expeditions, the pyramid has never given up all its secrets. Not even close. Some believe the Great Pyramid is exactly what mainstream Egyptologists says it is: a royal tomb, built with ingenuity and manpower, reflecting the Egyptians' unparalleled skill and devotion. Others, however, see it differently. They point to the lack of mummies or funerary artifacts found inside. They question how a society just emerging from the Neolithic era could produce something so complex, so exact. Alternative theorists have suggested all kinds of possibilities: that the pyramid was not a tomb, but an energy device, a resonance chamber, an observatory, or even a messaging coded in stone, meant to last beyond the rise and fall of empires. No evidence proves any of this conclusively. But neither has the mainstream solved every question. And that's what keeps the Great Pyramid suspended between worlds, part archaeology, part enigma. What's perhaps most striking about the pyramid isn't just its size or engineering, but the silence it keeps. It doesn't declare its purpose. It doesn't brag or explain. It simply endures, letting others argue and imagine. Beneath its shadow, tourists snap photos. Scientists argue theories. Mystics meditate. And somewhere within that limestone mass, ancient knowledge, real or imagined, waits. From the burning sands of Egypt, the journey now takes us across the jungles and rivers of Southeast Asia. There, hidden among the roots and vines of the Cambodian wilderness, rises a stone metropolis that once ruled an empire, and left behind a sacred riddle in stone. Angkor Wat and the lost Khmer Empire awaits. The Khmer Empire and the stone legacy of Angkor Wat. In the damp haze of the Cambodian jungle, where cicadas buzz like whispers of the past and strangler figs tighten their grip around ancient ruins, a city of stone slowly reveals itself. It is vast. Almost unnaturally vast. And at its heart lies Angkor Wat, a temple so majestic in design, so precise in alignment, and so mysterious in purpose that it has puzzled generations of scholars, explorers, and wanderers alike. Angkor Wat, often simply referred to as a temple, was far more than that. It was once the crown jewel of the Khmer Empire, an empire that, at its peak during the 12th century, spanned across much of Southeast Asia, from modern-day Cambodia to Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. Yet for all its power and reach, the Khmer Empire eventually vanished into the jungle, its cities reclaimed by nature, its history shattered like carvings worn by monsoon rain. The temple complex of Angkor Wat is the largest religious monument on earth. Enclosed within a vast moat and outer wall, its central towers rise like fingers reaching for the gods, symbolizing the peaks of Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Hindu cosmology. Its builders, under King Suryavarman II, carved every inch of its stone walls with astonishing detail, epic battles, celestial dancers, and cosmic myths preserved in silent reliefs. But what makes Angkor Wat truly unusual is its scale and planning. Its layout follows celestial patterns with incredible accuracy. The temple aligns with the spring equinox, and astronomers have found correlations between its towers and the orbits of planets. From the air, its symmetry is nearly perfect, a feat that seems to defy the tools available at the time. Was it merely the result of genius architecture? Or did the Khmers possess a deeper knowledge of astronomy and geometry than previously believed? Beneath the carvings and corridors lies another mystery. In recent decades, thanks to LiDAR scanning technology, researchers have uncovered the true extent of the Angkorian metropolis. What once seemed like a solitary temple was part of a sprawling, well-organized urban complex, home to possibly 1 million people, sustained by a vast and intricate network of canals, reservoirs, and roads. Angkor wasn't just a city. It was a machine. These waterways, or barays, weren't simply for drinking or transportation. They formed a hydraulic system so advanced that some believe it helped regulate floods and support large-scale rice agriculture, a green engine powering the empire. Yet, curiously, even this innovation might have been its undoing. As weather patterns shifted, and monsoons became erratic, the very system that once sustained Angkor may have turned against it. By the 15th century, Angkor was abandoned. The reasons are still debated. Some point to climate change, with a series of devastating droughts followed by massive floods that overwhelmed the waterworks. Others cite internal strife, foreign invasions, or shifts in religious power as Theravada Buddhism replaced Hinduism in the region. But as with many ancient collapses, perhaps the answer lies not in one cause, but in the slow unraveling of many threads at once. Centuries passed. The jungle crept in, roots prying stones apart. Villagers knew of Angkor Wat, and Buddhist monks maintained it, but to the outside world, it vanished from memory. When French explorer Henri Mouhot stumbled upon it in the 19th century, he wrote as if he had discovered Atlantis itself. One of these temples, a rival to that of Solomon, and erected by some ancient Michelangelo, might take an honorable place beside our most beautiful buildings. His romanticized words ignited a frenzy of fascination, drawing archaeologists, adventurers, and looters to Angkor. Restoration efforts began. So did speculation. Some fringe theorists see the grandeur and geometry of Angkor Wat and cannot accept that it was the work of a single medieval civilization. They suggest ancient knowledge passed down from lost cultures, or even visitors from beyond Earth. Such theories are rejected by mainstream scholars, who point to the Khmer's mastery of stone, their vast labor force, and their cultural obsession with cosmic balance. Still, the mystery lingers, not because the Khmer Empire didn't exist, but because it rose so high and fell so quietly. Today, as drones fly over the ruins and laser scans map every contour, we are still learning new things. Beneath the forest canopy, other temple complexes like Top Prom and Bayon stretch like forgotten outposts of an empire that dreamed in stone. Faces carved into towers watch in every direction, serene and unreadable. Bas-reliefs depict celestial dancers, apsaras, frozen mid-motion for 1,000 years. Angkor remains a paradox. It is both fragile and enduring. Devastated by war, colonization, and time, yet it persists. And through it, the Khmer people left behind not only a legacy of architectural brilliance, but a question that refuses to fade: how could so much be built, and then be lost? In the present, monks still walk the galleries of Angkor Wat at dawn. Tourists gather to watch the sun rise behind the temple's silhouette, casting its reflection across the moat. It is beautiful. But beneath the beauty is something else, a silent echo of forgotten power, a whisper of an empire swallowed by time. And just as Angkor begins to fade into the background of memory, another ancient monument rises into view, guarded by paws of stone, crowned by a mysterious smile, its origins still debated beneath the scorching sun of Egypt. The Great Sphinx of Giza waits, not merely to be admired, but to be understood. The Great Sphinx of Giza, was its face altered through time? Beneath the relentless Egyptian sun, where the sands shift like slow-moving tides and the air hums with the silence of millennia, the Great Sphinx of Giza lies in solemn watch. Half lion, half man, carved directly from the limestone bedrock, it has guarded the Giza Plateau for thousands of years, longer than any kingdom, pharaoh, or written history can truly account for. Its face is worn, its nose missing, its body battered by erosion and time. Yet the Sphinx still projects a quiet, immovable presence. It does not speak, but it does not need to. Its gaze alone, fixed eternally toward the rising sun, whispers of mysteries deeper than the pyramids behind it. The official story says the Great Sphinx was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, around 2500 BC, making it roughly 4,500 years old. It's believed to bear the likeness of Khafre himself, a monument to divine kingship, carved by the hands of skilled laborers with copper tools and endless patience. Behind it lies the Valley Temple, part of a grand funerary complex, reinforcing the idea of the Sphinx as a spiritual guardian. But the deeper one looks, the more cracks appear in this tidy narrative. For starters, the proportions of the Sphinx are unusual. Its head is small compared to its massive body, almost disproportionately so. Some scholars suggest this could mean the head was recarved at a later time, altering an earlier, possibly much older, sculpture. The weathering on the body also tells a different story. While most erosion on the Giza Plateau is due to wind and sand, the Sphinx shows patterns of water erosion, deep vertical channels consistent with heavy, sustained rainfall. The problem? Egypt hasn't experienced such a wet climate since long before 2500 BC. Geologist Dr. Robert Schoch was one of the first to make this argument publicly. Based on his analysis, the Sphinx could date back to 7000 BC or even earlier, pushing its construction into the realm of prehistory, long before dynastic Egypt arose. If true, it would mean that a civilization capable of carving a monument this massive existed thousands of years earlier than historians currently acknowledge. The face itself raises another question. Many believe it doesn't match the traditional depictions of Pharaoh Khafre. The jaw is different. The cheekbones are broader. The features have been worn down, yes, but some even argue they suggest a different ethnic identity altogether. Was the original face erased, recarved, repurposed for a new regime? Or did it once belong to a different being altogether? Then there is the curious issue of the Sphinx's alignment. It faces due east, directly toward the rising sun on the spring equinox. This astronomical positioning is precise, deliberate, and symbolic. But the orientation also plays into another theory, one that links the Sphinx to the stars. In the 1990s, researchers like Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval proposed that the layout of the Giza Plateau, including the three pyramids and the Sphinx, mimics the constellation of Orion as it would have appeared around 10,500 BC. At that time, the constellation Leo, the lion, would have risen due east at the spring equinox, aligning perfectly with the Sphinx's gaze. A lion, gazing at the lion in the sky. Is it a coincidence, or was the Sphinx originally built in that remote era, later repurposed by the dynastic Egyptians? Mainstream Egyptology rejects this theory, citing lack of solid evidence, and pointing out that the artistic and architectural styles of the Sphinx fit neatly within the Fourth Dynasty. Yet the debate remains unresolved. Archaeologists and geologists continue to analyze weathering patterns, sediment layers, and stylistic anomalies. And the Sphinx, silent as ever, offers no answers. Over the centuries, the Sphinx was buried multiple times by sandstorms and rising dunes. It disappeared from view for long stretches of history, only to be uncovered again by rulers, explorers, or scholars. One of the earliest known restorations was ordered by Pharaoh Thutmose IV in the 15th century BC. According to legend, while resting in the shadow of the buried Sphinx, Thutmose dreamed that the great stone guardian promised him kingship if he would free it from the sand. Thutmose kept his word, and the dream stele he erected between the paws of the Sphinx remains one of the most enigmatic inscriptions in Egypt. Later, in the Greco-Roman era, the Sphinx was considered a wonder. The Arabs called it Abu al-Hal, father of terror. Over time, explorers took pieces of it, artists painted romantic visions of it, and eventually, modern archaeologists worked to preserve what remained. Its missing nose has been the subject of rumor and myth, some blaming Napoleon's troops, others citing earlier damage. A 15th century Arab historian wrote that a Sufi zealot defaced the statue, outraged by its idol-like presence. Whoever did it, the damage was lasting. Yet despite all it has endured, iconoclasm, erosion, war, time, the Sphinx still stands. Today, tourists file past its paws, snapping photos under cloudless skies, often unaware of the depth of controversy surrounding the monument. For some, it's simply a relic. For others, it's a key, perhaps the oldest surviving link to a forgotten chapter of human history, buried deeper than the desert itself. Modern technologies, including ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys, have revealed the possibility of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx's paws. Egyptian authorities remain cautious, restricting further excavation, fueling further speculation. What lies beneath the world's oldest known monumental sculpture? A tomb? A library? Or nothing at all? But perhaps the greatest mystery is not what the Sphinx hides, but what it reveals, a fragment of something far older than we've dared to believe. A civilization with knowledge of the stars, of sacred geometry, of monumentality on a scale we can barely replicate. As the sun sets behind the pyramids and shadows fall across the face of the Sphinx, its eyes seem to narrow ever so slightly, not from wear or time, but from the weight of memory. It is a witness, not just to history, but to prehistory. And it will remain so long after we are gone. The underground library of Ivanova, a buried secret of ancient knowledge? In the dense forests outside the small Russian town of Ivanova, a place shrouded in mist and silence, lies a secret few know about, a vast underground complex believed to house a collection of ancient manuscripts and artifacts that could rewrite human history. The story begins in the early 1950s when a group of local explorers stumbled upon a hidden entrance beneath the roots of an enormous oak tree. What lay beyond was not just a simple cave or a forgotten cellar, but an intricate network of tunnels, chambers, and shelves filled with books, scrolls, and relics that seemed to defy time. The initial discovery sent ripples through the academic community, but almost immediately, the Soviet government intervened. Classified as a matter of national security, the site was sealed off, and all records relating to it were quietly archived away. Yet rumors persisted. Locals spoke of scholars mysteriously vanishing after expressing interest in the site, while others claimed that the books contained knowledge far beyond what any known civilization had achieved. According to accounts passed down by villagers, the underground library was created centuries ago by an unknown group of people who sought to preserve wisdom during times of turmoil. Some believed the knowledge originated from ancient civilizations predating recorded history. Others whispered that it was the work of a secretive brotherhood, guardians of forbidden knowledge meant to be hidden until humanity was ready. What made the Ivanova library especially enigmatic was the variety and age of the manuscripts. Some were written in extinct languages, others contained cryptic diagrams of technologies and cosmologies that modern science struggles to explain. Among the preserved items were maps that showed continents and land masses in configurations unlike anything on current geological charts, suggesting a lost understanding of Earth's history. Further adding to the mystery, peculiar symbols carved into the cave walls hinted at ritualistic or spiritual practices unknown to mainstream archaeology. These markings suggested a belief system intertwined with the knowledge held within the library, perhaps indicating that this was more than a mere collection of books. It was a sanctuary for preserving the essence of an ancient culture's worldview. In the decades since its discovery, various expeditions have tried to access the library, but all have been met with obstacles, government restrictions, collapsed tunnels, or unexplained equipment failures. Some researchers who managed brief glimpses described a labyrinth so vast it seemed to stretch beneath the earth indefinitely. Skeptics argue that the Ivanova Underground Library is a myth, a legend born of local folklore mixed with Cold War paranoia. Yet, others who have investigated the area with modern technology, including ground-penetrating radar, have detected anomalous structures consistent with large subterranean spaces. Regardless of the truth, the legend of the Ivanova Underground Library continues to captivate imaginations. It embodies a universal human fascination, the search for lost knowledge, the hope that somewhere beneath our feet lies a vault of wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. The Amazon warrior graves of Kazakhstan. Did female warriors truly exist? Across the sweeping steppes of Kazakhstan, where the wind whispers through endless grasses and the sky seems to stretch into eternity, a discovery emerged that challenged long-held perceptions about ancient societies and gender roles. In the early 1990s, a team of archaeologists unearthed burial sites that contained the remains of fierce warriors, but with a startling twist. Among the skeletons adorned with weapons and armor were women, laid to rest with the same honors as men who once fought and died in battle. These graves, dating back over 2,500 years, belonged to the nomadic Saka people, ancestors to the Scythians, whose presence was recorded in ancient Persian and Greek texts. However, it was the remains of these women warriors that captivated historians and anthropologists alike, as they seemed to embody the legendary accounts of the Amazons, fierce female fighters spoken of in Greek mythology, known for their courage and martial prowess. The site, located near the Issyk burial ground in southern Kazakhstan, contained dozens of graves with an astonishing level of detail. Women were buried with weapons such as bows, arrows, and daggers, alongside horses and elaborate jewelry. The positioning of the bodies suggested they were combatants, not merely companions or family members. For centuries, the existence of female warriors was dismissed as myth or exaggeration, often relegated to the realm of legend and folklore. But the physical evidence from Kazakhstan forced scholars to reconsider. Osteological analyses revealed that many of these women had healed wounds consistent with battle injuries, and their skeletons showed signs of physical activity that aligned with a warrior's lifestyle. This discovery also raised questions about the societal structures of nomadic tribes. Unlike many ancient civilizations where gender roles were rigid, the Saka and their kin appeared to embrace a more fluid dynamic, where women could rise to positions of power and warfare. The idea of warrior women resonated far beyond the steppes. It influenced popular culture and academic debates, inspiring novels, films, and studies on gender roles throughout history. Some even suggested that the stories of the Amazons could have been inspired by real-life encounters with these fierce Saka women during the ancient world's contact with nomadic tribes. Yet, many mysteries remain. How extensive was the role of women in warfare across these nomadic cultures? What were the beliefs and customs that allowed such gender parity in battle? And how did these warrior women shape the course of their people's history? The Amazon graves in Kazakhstan offer a rare glimpse into a past where myths and history intertwine, revealing that sometimes legends are grounded in surprising truths. As new technologies and archaeological methods continue to evolve, more secrets from these burial grounds may come to light, shedding further understanding on the enigmatic lives of these female warriors. The movable stone door of India. Who can open the seventh door of the Padmanabhaswamy? In the heart of Kerala, India, within the ancient city of Tiruvananthapuram, stands a temple of staggering opulence and impenetrable mystery. The Padma, dedicated to the god Vishnu reclining on the serpent Ananta, is not only one of the most sacred shrines in Hinduism, it is also reputed to be one of the richest religious institutions in the world. But behind the golden facade and sacred rituals lies a secret that continues to baffle believers, historians, and scientists alike: the seventh door. For centuries, legends surrounded the temple, speaking of hidden vaults beneath its sanctum that housed unimaginable treasures, gems, gold, and artifacts from dynasties long past. In 2011, a court-appointed committee was granted access to inventory these underground chambers. One by one, massive stone doors were opened, revealing hoards of riches, vaults labeled a through F, each containing offerings and donations made over hundreds of years. The estimated value of the revealed treasure exceeded $22 billion, not counting the historical and cultural worth. But there was one door that remained firmly shut: Vault B. More specifically, a smaller chamber within Vault B, often referred to as the seventh door. Unlike the others, this door was not sealed with locks or latches. It had no mechanical hinges, no keyhole, and no apparent method of entry. It was a massive stone slab, intricately marked with Nagabandham, serpent imagery, and according to temple priests, guarded by curses older than memory. Local tradition holds that this door can only be opened through an ancient ritual called Garuda Mantra, performed by a spiritually enlightened sage of the highest level. No one has performed this mantra in over a century, and few living even claim to understand its full intricacies. Attempts to forcibly open the door have been resisted by the temple authorities and even blocked by the Indian Supreme Court, citing religious sanctity and concerns over national security. The question remains, what lies behind the seventh door? Theories abound. Some believe the chamber holds the most valuable treasure of all, jewels and divine objects that dwarf the riches already uncovered. Others say the room contains ancient scrolls, knowledge passed down from lost civilizations, perhaps even records of India's legendary past, from the time of the Mahabharata and beyond. There are whispers of divine weapons, cosmic secrets, or technology from an age now lost. But darker legends persist. According to age-old lore, disturbing vault B could invoke the wrath of the deity, releasing catastrophic consequences. Some priests claim the chamber houses a dormant force, kept in check only by sacred chants and rituals. Opening it without the proper rites, they say, could unleash floods, droughts, or pestilence, a divine punishment for human arrogance. It's a tale that echoes the stories of Pandora's box, but deeply rooted in South Indian spiritual tradition. In 1931, during a minor exploration effort, a group of temple caretakers allegedly attempted to peer into the chamber through a small opening. They reported hearing the roars of snakes and the rushing sound of water, as if a subterranean river flowed behind the stone barrier. Terrified, they abandoned the task, and the story faded into rumor. Modern skeptics argue that the door likely leads to a now sealed storage area, inaccessible due to the lack of maintenance or the risk of structural collapse. Engineers have proposed scanning the area with ground-penetrating radar, but these requests have been repeatedly denied. Even government authorities tread lightly. The temple's legal, religious, and political complexity makes any interference a volatile issue. Intriguingly, many of the temple's original records were lost or deliberately destroyed over the centuries, leaving scholars with fragments and oral traditions as their only guides. Some point to ancient palm leaf manuscripts that refer cryptically to the eye that should not be opened, beneath Vishnu's feet, possibly a veiled reference to the seventh door. Adding to the mystery is the fact that the temple's entire structure is mathematically aligned with celestial events. Built using principles of Vastashastra, an ancient Indian architectural science, the temple is believed to be a cosmic map, its vaults and sanctums symbolizing different levels of consciousness and energy. The seventh door, in this view, is not merely a physical barrier, but a spiritual gate, a threshold between worlds. To this day, the seventh door remains unopened and untouched. Monks and devotees maintain strict rituals outside it, offering flowers and incense, chanting verses to maintain spiritual balance. The atmosphere is one of reverence and quiet fear, a recognition that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Perhaps the seventh door guards more than just gold or secrets. It guards the fragile boundary between belief and knowledge, between reverence and inquiry. As India steps boldly into the 21st century, the presence of this silent stone gate beneath one of its holiest shrines serves as a potent reminder. Even in an age of satellites and supercomputers, some doors should only be opened when the soul is ready. The tattoos of the Pazyryk mummy, symbols of a lost civilization? High in the icy reaches of the Altai Mountains, where the borders of Russia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and China converge in a tapestry of rugged peaks and endless steppe, Soviet archaeologists in 1947 made a discovery that would ripple through the academic world for decades. Beneath layers of permafrost, deep within a burial mound on the Yukok Plateau, they unearthed what appeared to be a remarkably well-preserved body, frozen, yet hauntingly lifelike. It was a woman, later nicknamed the Ice Maiden, or Princess of Yukok, and her presence told of a civilization that had long since vanished into the mists of time. But the real wonder wasn't her burial, her garments, or even the ceremonial grave goods surrounding her. It was her skin. Tattooed across her shoulder, down her arm, and wrapping her fingers were intricate, swirling designs, creatures of myth and nature rendered in exquisite detail. Stylized deer with twisted antlers, griffin-like beasts, and abstract motifs flowed across her preserved flesh, untouched by time. This was no random decoration. These tattoos were statements, possibly sacred, possibly social, emblems of a forgotten belief system, etched permanently onto her body. She belonged to the Pazyryk culture, a nomadic Scythian people who thrived in the 5th to 3rd centuries BC. They left behind burial mounds known as kurgans, many of which remained sealed under thick layers of ice and earth. Because of the freezing conditions, organic materials, wool, felt, wood, and even flesh, survived for millennia. The Ice Maiden wasn't alone. Other mummies, both male and female, were found with similarly ornate tattoos, suggesting that this form of body art was more than mere vanity. To understand these tattoos, one must peer into a culture that had no written records but communicated through symbol, ritual, and myth. Some scholars argue that the tattoos were totemic, each image representing a guardian spirit or ancestral animal. Others speculate they were markers of status, rank, or tribal affiliation. Still others believe they held medicinal or protective purposes, perhaps tied to shamanic beliefs, worn like spiritual armor into the afterlife. But perhaps the most haunting theory is this: what if these tattoos are remnants of a symbolic language, a visual lexicon of a civilization whose voice has otherwise been silenced by time? Some researchers have noted curious similarities between the Pazyryk tattoo motifs and other symbols found thousands of miles away, in Celtic carvings, in early Chinese iconography, even in pre-Columbian South American art. Could these suggest a once shared system of myth or movement? Or are they the result of convergent symbolism born from the human imagination? Interestingly, the Princess of Yukok wasn't buried alone. Alongside her were horses with elaborate harnesses, ornate wooden dishes, and intricate textiles. Her burial chamber was more royal than tribal. She was not a warrior, nor a queen in the conventional sense, but she was undoubtedly important, possibly a spiritual figure, a seer or a shamaness. And her tattoos may have been part of that identity. Yet her discovery has not been without controversy. In the Altai Republic, local indigenous groups protested the removal of her body from the plateau, claiming that her disturbance had upset the spirits of the land. After her exhumation, they said the region experienced a string of natural disasters, earthquakes, violent storms, and illnesses. Some called for her immediate reburial. Others claimed she had never truly been dead, but was in a state of spiritual slumber, her tattoos containing spells that kept the balance between worlds. While such beliefs might be dismissed by science, they speak to something deeper, a collective sense that this woman, and the culture she came from, existed on the threshold of the mystical. The precision and symbolism of her body art suggested a worldview far richer and more complex than previously imagined. These were not primitive nomads, but a people with deep philosophical and spiritual systems, expressed through ink and ice. Recent advancements in imaging and analysis have revealed even more. Under infrared light, some of the faded tattoos become visible again, revealing patterns that had nearly disappeared. A few researchers have noticed that certain motifs correspond to celestial alignments, lunar cycles, solstice positions, and even constellations. Was the Princess of Yukok not just a seer, but a celestial cartographer? Was her body a living map of the heavens? Others still suggest that the ink used in the tattoos contains ingredients not native to the Altai region, resins and pigments potentially sourced from hundreds, even thousands of miles away. This raises another question. Were the Pazyryk part of a much larger cultural network? Were they trading symbols and spiritual practices with distant peoples whose connections are now buried under centuries of snow and silence? Even more astonishing, recent genetic analysis has revealed that the Pazyryk people had a complex genetic makeup, traces of Western Eurasian and East Asian ancestry interwoven into their lineage. They were a crossroad people, genetically and culturally, carrying with them echoes of larger human migrations and mythologies. Today, the mummies of the Pazyryk lie in carefully climate-controlled museum chambers, their tattoos still visible under glass, their stories half-whispered through the mouths of scholars and mystics alike. But one thing remains clear: their skin, marked with symbols that defy time, continues to speak across millennia. And while the princess of Yukok sleeps far from her homeland, her tattoos burn in the imagination of all who gaze upon them, reminders that not all knowledge is written in books. Some of it is written in flesh. Some say her soul still lingers in the mountains, waiting for her people to return. Others believe her tattoos are keys, pieces of a forgotten code that, once deciphered, might reveal the beliefs, maps, and myths of a civilization erased by ice. And so, as we leave behind the frozen silence of the Altai Mountains, and the inked whispers etched into ancient skin, we're left with more questions than answers. What messages were meant to survive the ages? What wisdom did they carry beneath the frost? Perhaps, in time, more secrets will surface. But for now, we pause the journey here, until the next tale calls us forward. Thank you for watching. Sleep well, dream deep, and we'll meet again in the next mystery. Good night.